Our recent opinion piece is accusing the Department of Justice of political bias. Writing in the Daily Caller, Brian Birch of Catholic Vote said in part, quote, "The DOJ's relentless persecution serves a chilling reminder that they will go after anyone who dares to deviate from any part of their liberal orthodoxy." And joining us now is Brian Birch, president of CatholicVote.org. Brian, great to be with you today. A lot to get to. But I first want to talk about your op-ed in the Daily Caller and why you decided to write it.
Well, sure. We wrote it because this is an issue, unfortunately, that we are still dealing with. And I think many Catholics, including those listening right now, are deeply concerned about. And that is this pattern of vandalism and destruction of Catholic churches, statues of Our Lady being beheaded, sacred objects, the tabernacle, even the Eucharist itself being desecrated in churches. And we have very little to no answer from the Department of Justice. And I think it's time and time again, we are now seeing this administration through the Department of Justice behaving in a way that can only be described as unequal, as treating Catholics and people of faith as second class, and instead going after people like Mark Houck and pro-life activists like you just mentioned in a way that just seems to be unfair, unjust, and an unequal application of the law.
And Brian, I know that you're tracking attacks on pro-life pregnancy centers on your website. Tell us about what you found.
Sure. Well, we've been tracking it actually since 2020, of course, when the country erupted in political violence, primarily from the left with BLM and these attacks on cities across the country. And then, of course, again, after the decision by the Supreme Court and the Dobbs decision to overturn Roe v. Wade. Just in the last year alone, there have been over 189 attacks on Catholic churches and shrines, over 300 since 2020, and nearly 90 attacks in the last year alone on pregnancy resource centers. And so our question here is this. When the Department of Justice is spending its time prosecuting pro-life activists, going after innocent men like Mark Houck, where is the Department of Justice when it comes to responding to this violence? Less than 1% of these crimes have been pursued by the Department of Justice, and the very same law they are using against pro-lifers, the FACE Act, the Freedom of Access to Clinic Entrances, equally protects churches, explicit in the text, and the Department of Justice has simply been absent.
Brian, and what do you think the signals to the faithful that these attacks are basically taking a back seat to the DOJ? At least it seems that way.
The thing is Department of Justice is supposed to be apolitical. Unlike other cabinet secretaries and policy advisors, these people obviously are appointed to carry out a president's agenda. And the Attorney General of the Department of Justice is supposed to be separated. There's supposed to be a wall there where they can pursue justice and pursue criminals wherever they may be, regardless of their political affiliation. And unfortunately, it seems to us that the pattern here is that if you agree with the president, you receive a certain application of the law. If you disagree with them, the department will come after you with everything they have. And I think this is the exceptionally worrisome development, because we can't have the law enforcement agencies of our country picking winners and losers. And when that happens, the entire edifice and confidence in our government begins to crumble.
Brian, we have a little less than a minute left, but I'm curious what's on your radar right now.
Well, we're certainly watching the Republican presidential primary. We have another debate coming up, and there's a lot of things going on there, certainly on issues of importance to Catholics. We're also watching this budget debate in Congress. We're heading towards a threshold of potential shutdown, which could go either way for both parties. Certainly, we want to encourage fiscal responsibility, and we also want to encourage that the members of Congress protect the things that Catholics care about most, and that is life and family.
And Brian, I know you also put out a statement about some comments that former President Donald Trump made. Tell us why you felt that was important.
Well, Donald Trump was the most pro-life president in American history, and that's a fact, and he deserves credit for that. And he said some things over the weekend that suggested that if he's elected again, he may not be as committed to that agenda. And we just reminded him, pro-life Catholics helped elect him in 2016, gave him a record number of votes in 2020, and he needs those votes again if he hopes to win again. And I think it's our job as Catholics, and certainly as people engaged in politics, to tell every politician, no matter their party, that they need our votes. If they want our votes, they have to come and courageously win them over.
All right, we're going to leave it right there. Brian, great to be with you. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.